Talkin Ball. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Jerry Hamilton. This has been this episode of On Texas Football, sponsored by our friend John Donovan over at Longhorn Wealth Management Group. Jerry, Steve Sarkisian met with the media a little bit today, talked a little Longhorn football, not only about what he saw from last week's bye week out of the Longhorns, but also the health of Isaiah Bond and Andrew Makuba, as well as a little look forward to the game this weekend against Florida. But maybe the news of the day came out of Gainesville, where Florida coach Billy Napier put it out there that, hey, maybe DJ Lagway can play on Saturday. I don't know how he's going to do that if his hamstring detached from his buttocks just a week ago, but we'll see what happens. I mean, I've seen weirder things happen. This is the tweet from Pete Thamel, ESPN national reporter. Billy Napier said quarterback DJ Lagway's apparent hamstring injury is less significant than anticipated. They carted him off during a rivalry game.
Right.
How is it less significant? I don't know, but you would think he's out for the Texas game. We'll see. Napier doesn't rule out his return, however, against Texas. I don't know what you say. I mean, how do you get carted off and then say, oh, it wasn't that significant? Le'Veon Moss, by the way, the Aggie running back, Mike Elko came out earlier today and said the Aggie running back, Le'Veon Moss, who's having a terrific breakout season for the Aggies, is lost for the year. That's a tough loss for the Aggies as well. So, look, we wish all these guys that are getting injured good health.
Yeah, that's Moss's second major knee injury of his career. So you hope
second one.
Yeah, you hope he can come back. I mean, because that is that's a tough one.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, look, every Monday night on Talkin Ball, we ask you guys to ask us questions, and we'll comment as we can, as much as we can, as often as we can on these topics, and then we'll get through it. We'll be stopping around the top of the hour tonight. And Texas has a basketball game, Jerry, at 9:00 against Ohio State. The Horns playing in Las Vegas. What are your thoughts on that game for folks real quick before we get going? And do we know if Trayvon Mark, the transfer from Arkansas, is actually going to play tonight or not?
I do not know. There's been nothing sent out officially by Texas on that. I've been on the road all days, but I have not seen anything definitive. I was told day to day. So it may have just come down to how he's felt here in an hour or 2 hours before, but I've not seen anything. If anybody's put out anything officially, let me know, but I haven't seen it. But I think in an ideal world that Texas would try to go without him tonight and make sure he's healthy, because that just happened right before the Colorado game. And it was the second time he had a minor injury like that. When I watched them practice before the Mississippi State game, he did not do much at all because he just coming off a little bit of a minor one there. Or before the Mississippi State football game, I watched Texas basketball practice, and they held him out that day too. So I think if they'd love to get him healthy. But the flip side of that is Trayvon Mark, I think, is the best college basketball player on this team. He may be a two-way contract guy in the NBA. Trey Johnson's the best prospect, NBA prospect, but Trayvon Mark has been way, way even better than they thought since arriving at Texas. He's done more from a playmaking role than they expected him to, and he's played at a really high level. So, again, the flip side is this gets a NCAA tournament level team, so you want to win the game, but then you have the whole season to think about too. So we'll see what they do. I haven't heard anything for sure yet.
Yeah. Hey, Jerry, this isn't a game that could really help decide seeding long term in the NCAA tournament, is it? Is Ohio State expect to be that good or just a tournament team?
Yeah, no. It's hard to say. There's 18 new combined players in this game, and 10 for Texas, 8 for Ohio State, I think. So it's hard to say for sure early in the season like this. But if Ohio State's not an NCAA tournament team, I'd be surprised. Their guards are really good. They're strong. Bruce Thornton's a really 6'2", 215-pound kid, really strong player. The kid from South Carolina, Michi Johnson's really talented. They have a kid that came off the bench for them last year, is a 6'6" combo forward named Devin Royal, who I saw in high school a number of times. He's tremendous. They got Aaron Bradshaw and from Kentucky, Sean Stewart from Duke on their front court. So they got really good players. But no, this game could actually 4 months from now matter in a weird way. It's this quad one game. It's going to be a quad one win for somebody.
Got it. All right. Before we get to your questions or more of your questions, we're going to talk a little bit about our friend John Donovan and talk about our sponsor. We'd like to thank our sponsor, John Donovan, President, Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John's a proud Texas Ex's Life member whose wife and 6 siblings are also UT grads. The family UT passion is what led John to brand his firm, Longhorn Wealth Management, and dedicate it to providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services and solutions to Longhorn families and friends across the nation. John's a certified financial planner. He wants to offer all OTF fans a free 90-minute consultation to help maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and secure your legacy. Give him a call, 972-707-4900, or go online at longhornwealth.net. All right, Jerry, let's get to the chat line, talk a little Longhorn football and basketball, whatever you guys want to talk. Let's start with a little NFL draft conversation. Lando asks, who are you taking first in a draft, Quinn or Beck?
Shedeur.
Not Beck would be my answer.
No.
Not Beck. Something's going on there. And I'm not sure what it is, but he's had 11 interceptions in 5 SEC games. He can't stop it to throwing it to the other team right now. And I'm telling you, that puts Georgia in a precarious position. They may be the most talented team in the country.
Yep.
But with a quarterback playing like this, you just never know.
I mean, he's literally on pace for 15 to 16 interceptions this year in year 2 starting. I mean, if Georgia goes on and even gets to the college football semifinal and he doesn't pick up his level of play about 10 notches, you almost have to tip your cap to Kirby and say, I don't know how you did it. I know you're just really talented, but when a quarterback's those 15, 16, 17 interceptions, you are not supposed to be in the playoffs or advance in the playoffs.
Yeah, no doubt. I just don't see how you take Carson Beck right now. Now, maybe he turns it around, Jerry.
I would not.
Maybe he turns it around. But look at this, 3 against Florida, 3 against Texas, 2 against Mississippi State. Mississippi State's not very good. None against Auburn, but 3 against Alabama as well.
And those interceptions got them down 30-7 in that game because one was from his own end zone. I think 2 of them were on their own side of the field. I mean, you've never seen a quarterback in college football, to my knowledge, that was projected to go 1-1 have this type of season.
Well, I got to be honest. It looks like he took a nosedive after that Alabama game. My goodness. Look at that. 27 of 50, 3 picks, 25 of 40 against Florida, 3 picks, 23 of 41 versus Texas, 3 picks. Just not a good stat line for somebody that was expected to be a first-round quarterback. I would also challenge this. I'm not sure he has a great arm either. Like, I don't think he has as good an arm as Quinn Ewers. So I'm a little I think I would take Quinn at this point. He's taking better care of the ball, knock on wood.
Drewski Lee brought up a really good point. Jameis Winston threw a lot of picks and they won a national championship. That is true. That's a good point. It's been that long since somebody, and I'm looking up how many he actually threw.
10. According to Matt, our producer, Jerry.
Yeah.
He threw 10. All right,
he had 40 touchdowns.
In it to win it. Bond and Makuba, good to go. According to Steve Sarkisian, both of those young men practiced this morning. I was told against Vanderbilt that Bond likely could have gone. Yeah. Sarkisian decided to hold him out. Makuba was injured still from the Georgia game. He's had 3 weeks now to get over a bruised knee. So we expect both of those guys to play this coming Saturday. Todd Lacey, Jerry, this is going to be up your alley. What is the latest on the punter position? Texas cannot afford to lose a close game because of poor punting. You know, I will say this, sitting back and watching SEC games this weekend, I was a little jealous of other teams' kicking games. Not necessarily kicking games, but their punting games, whether it was Auburn or Vanderbilt or Goodness, Florida, Georgia as well. They all had punters. South Carolina, even A&M with a freshman punter, really good right now. Much better than Texas, in my opinion, at that position and in punt coverage right now.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is Michael Kern has been asked almost to Australian rules punt the ball this year. They haven't really let him let it rip, so you kind of wonder. I'll be interested to see what they do after the season. Is Michael Kern this just a freshman guy that didn't play, that wasn't in for spring practice, and then he ends up being a quality punter for you in years 2, 3, and 4? If they go to the portal, obviously they think that's not the case. It's going to be pretty obvious by what Jeff Banks and Sark do in the offseason.
Yeah, I can understand that. Let's go to the next one and see what we're talking about here. Edward Costley. Every team has their strengths and weaknesses. What are Florida's? I will say this, and tell me if you agree or disagree. Sark said that they have, quote, I'm going to read this quote to you guys, big, long, athletic players. They have a great rotation in their front seven. They rotated in 14 players on their defensive front seven against Georgia. Look, they held their own physically against Georgia. Where they got beat was in execution down the stretch. Florida just didn't have the quarterback to make things go after Lagway went out. What do you think their strengths and weaknesses are, Jerry?
Yeah, I hear what Sark's saying there, and I think they have good players, but we're not going to get them confused with Georgia's front seven or A&M's front four or Michigan's front four. They don't have that. They have good players, but they're not that level. They're the level below that, whatever that is. I mean, it's above some other teams, but they're not on that level. They don't have the draft. They're not going to have guys as highly drafted across the board as A&M's front four or Georgia's, or maybe Georgia's linebackers. But they don't have a first rounder like a Mikael Williams. They don't have what Michigan has, 2 first-round level guys, plus an edge guy that's going to be a third rounder. They don't have that. They're good. Florida's weakness to me, skill injuries are big for them. Beyond quarterback, Eugene Wilson is a stud slot receiver. You haven't seen it this year. He had a meniscus tear, or he had a little knee scope early in the season. He tried to come back and play against Tennessee and Kentucky. He did. He wasn't the same. He didn't play against Georgia. We'll see. So they've been missing an NFL slot receiver. I mean, I saw the kid in high school. He is a damn good player. So they haven't had him. Their secondary's been banged up all year. They're likely 2 starting corners. One hadn't played since week 2. Their most experienced guy, Jason Marshall's now out for the year with a shoulder. They're beat up at the skill positions. Montreal Johnson hasn't been healthy all season. He's battled through the lingering knee that he had a scope on. So they have been beat up beyond quarterback. I'm not sure how athletic they are on the offensive line, Bobby. I think everything they do in the run game is Damian George, the right guard. If you follow where he moves, you know where the ball's going to go. I'm not sure how athletic they are in pass pro, though. I think now they're going to be tested. DJ Lagway was masking that deficiency, but they can't mask it now.
Yeah, they're not running zone read with Aiden Warner, the guy that I saw on Saturday go into the game after Lagway went out. I will say this: their strengths, I think they are capable.
Good running
capable team. They have a good running back group. Jaden Baugh is a really good young running back for them. Montreal Johnson, if he's ready to go, is very good. They have some capable offensive linemen in the run game.
Yeah.
So I think that is a piece of what their strengths are. Their weaknesses right now is, look, what's the downfield passing game look like if you're going with Aiden Warner as your quarterback right now? And it's not just the targets. I mean, Florida has some very good and skilled wide receivers that are just young. They have speed. I mean, I'm not saying they're great or anything like that, but they've got some guys. The problem is who's going to get it to them?
Yeah.
And is that going to scare Texas like Lagway's big arm would? And frankly, that's the question I have. So their strengths are they're capable. Their weaknesses right now, in my opinion, the quarterback position and what they're going to do, and lack of overall ability to put everything together on offense in this scenario. If you're going with your third team QB, I mean, it would be hard for Texas to do the same.
Yeah.
I mean, be honest. I mean, this is a former walk-on from Yale that is now the starting quarterback of the Florida Gators, despite what Billy Napier says. By the way, I want to say this on that injury to DJ Lagway, Jerry. If you want to get fired and run out of town, go play DJ Lagway on Saturday and get him re-injured or injured more seriously.
Yeah, you know what?
That's a quick way to.
You know what's tough? You know what's tough about that? Nowadays, you have significant NIL investment in the quarterbacks too, and you can't be risking. I mean, that's
well. I mean, look, from an NIL perspective, they may say, "Oh, well, we want you to play anyways. We just not re-up you next year if you get hurt." The problem is you can't. That guy Lagway has shown me enough, and shown Florida fans, I think, more importantly enough, that they think he may be a program saver. They really may think that.
Well, I mean, look,
so you can't go risk. You put him back out there after an injury and he gets re-injured, you should be fired, Billy Napier. That's.
I mean, look, let's just say this. Let's just say for Lagway, and I'm not convinced he's going to be an elite player yet. I think it's way too early. But in the college game, let's just say he's Lenoris Sellers with a downfield arm.
Oh, he's not as athletic as that. As Sellers?
Maybe.
Sellers is really athletic.
Maybe. I mean, but you can his escapability hard to get down. I'm not sure saying he's as elusive, but escapability hard to get down. I mean, he's still a true freshman out there, but just say he was close to that with a downfield. Well, you can win 9 games with that guy.
Oh, I mean, Napier was right in his press conference this morning. Jerry Napier said, "Hey, look, we had that game going the way we wanted to. We thought we had a good plan. They did. Yeah. They were going to pound the rock and throw it over the top and try to get Carson Beck to throw them interceptions. Everything they wanted had happened in the first quarter and a half of that game, and then Lagway went down. Their defense was playing good enough. Lagway was producing first downs enough and being able to throw it out over the game. Oh, this is a good one. In it to quit it. Is this a Colin Simmons go get the QB game?
Yes.
What about Colin Simmons, Trey Moore, the whole group?
Yes.
Maybe Simmons because of his get off, Jerry, a little bit more?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And again, I'm not sure Florida's great in pass pro. What they do is they're a play. Everything's a jet motion, play action. And look, when Mertz was there, he could hold you. He could hold you enough of that threat. When Lagway was there, he wanted to throw it deep. So then you had QB run game off of that. With Warner, I'm not sure you have either. So I'm not sure what the jet motion and the play action's really going to do for you with Aiden Warner. So I'm interested to see what Florida does having to adapt their offense. And people are still coming in. I don't think DJ Lagway's playing. Stephen Houston's like, well, Sark's, they're trying to get Texas to prepare. I mean, maybe. I just don't think Texas is going to – I think they know that guy's hurt. But I'm not sure what Florida has that they're really going to replicate in that offense because Warner, he threw one ball on the perimeter from the opposite hash that Aiden Mizell dropped, and that ball took a long time to get there. And I was like, oof, your offense just really changed because that ball was fluttering and took a long time to get over there. And Georgia, they were about to hit the guy right on the catch. He dropped it. So I don't know. I'm not sure how much they can replicate of what they were doing offensively. So I think the edges for Texas have an advantage against the Florida Gators offensive tackles, and now you have a quarterback that drastically changes what they want to do.
This one coming in from AJJ. Jerry, who do you think is Texas's top priority that's currently committed elsewhere? Let's switch it up to a little recruiting. Also, you were out in Tampa area today, meeting up with Grayson Littlejohn, the cornerback prospect out of Florida that's also looking at Michigan really hard. Give folks a little bit of an update there.
Yeah, as far as the question, I mean, it's pretty much Michael Fasusi committed to Oklahoma. Your D-line guys, a Kevin Wynn committed to Florida State currently. He won't go there. A Walter Mathis committed to LSU. But if they don't get those guys to a game, like November 23rd. It's not happening, obviously. Dorian Brew, the corner, committed to Oregon from Conroe. I think still think there's enough conversation there to where Texas is invested in that. Maybe Malcolm Simpson late, the D lineman committed to Nebraska, monitoring his academics, but they haven't set up an official visit with him. Chase Sims, the defensive lineman, committed to A&M that came to campus for the Georgia game. We'll see if there's another visit. If not, I'm not sure where that goes. I think there'd need to be another visit for that to become a reality and get more one-on-one time with Sarkisian. After that, it's guys that really aren't committed anywhere. Justice Terry, Joseph Mbatu. You have Grayson Littleton, who I'll get into, Kellen Wiley, the linebacker from Sefner Armwood. He's making an official visit to Texas Swing. I didn't mention Riley Pettichon. I'm not sure there's enough moving there. We'll see. Still time, 30 days from signing day. Just giving y'all kind of feel for where it's at. Then Michael Terry's not committed anywhere. Grayson Littleton, the corner from Wiregrass Ranch, decommitted from Clemson. Family moved from Kansas to Tampa, I think right before his freshman year. Kids, Bobby, you called, I was driving, you called, said, well, he kind of reminds me of Carrington Bindum physically.
Oh, interesting.
And Carrington was a good player that got a cup of coffee in the NFL. I think he may be faster than Carrington, more sudden than Carrington. But I was talking about frame wise. I was thinking about somebody driving that Texans fans would have seen. Carrington Bindum physically is probably who he'd remind me of. He doesn't have the length of a Shockey Brown, right? But he's a quick, explosive kid who ran 10.85 last spring. He's a December graduate. He visited Michigan last weekend officially with a stepfather, mom, brother. Same group will come to Texas this weekend. They're trying to finalize that, I think, tonight with the Texas staff, but that visit should happen. But that's really the only two. I think right now he would like to visit Texas and decide between Michigan and Texas. And if not, he's had a lot of people call him. But the one thing he said, I'll have more on ontexasfootball.com tomorrow. He doesn't want to restart his whole process. I think there's a couple of schools right there he likes now that Texas offered, and he feels like he can make a good decision from there. If he visits Texas this weekend and still doesn't feel good about one of the two, then maybe he would look at a late November visit, but we'll have to see there. But a really good football player, great kid. I mean, I spent 10 minutes today talking to him, spent a couple hours with the staff. Great kid. I think would be a really good fit at Texas.
Is he good enough to play at Texas?
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean that's a big piece of this, Jerry, because they're recruiting at such a high level right now. I mean, those guys just don't come at you. You gotta go find them, and that's good stuff. What about and I got to ask this now too, because we didn't talk about Dorian Brew. Really, it sounds like Texas is down to in-state Michael Terry, Michael Fasusi, and potentially Dorian Brew right now inside the state. Brew, the corner out of Conroe that's currently committed to Oregon, but Texas keeps talking to him.
Well, there's some other guys, but
like
on Dorian Brew,
Sims, or
there's some other guys, but on Dorian Brew specifically, look, Auburn's in there for Naeem Offord too. I mean, guys, I don't know what to say, but Auburn's in there for Naeem Offord as well. A couple of teammates are committed to Auburn. Would he go to Oregon? We'll have to see on that. But if he did flip, the problem is that would be such a late flip. I mean, that would be a really late flip is the problem there. That's probably a December 4th type of scenario. The same time that a Dorian Brew would be ending his recruitment. So that would surprise me. But I watch Auburn with Offord, man, from what I hear. We'll see what happens.
Gotcha. It doesn't really change what Texas would do with Brew unless Offord switched from Ohio State to Oregon, and then maybe because of that, Brew gets a little cold feet with Oregon. This one from Lowry Dan. What is Billy Napier known for? He's 15-17 as the head coach of the Florida Gators, and I believe he's 55-29 overall as a head coach. Where he really made his hay was at Louisiana Lafayette, or University of Louisiana. He was 40-12 in 4 years there and won the Sun Belt twice. Played at Texas, actually, in Sark's first year with Hudson Card at quarterback for the Longhorns. in that game. My question, he came up as an offensive coach, Jerry. Coached under Nick Saban, by the way, at Alabama, I think from 2013 to 2016 in that range, mid 2010s. Also had a time at Clemson, but he's been at schools around the Deep South. He is a offense coach first, but what he's really known for is more of a rugged style of play on offense. He definitely believes in running the football and playing good defense and trying to out-athlete you a little bit, which is what he did quite often at Louisiana Lafayette against fellow Sun Belt teams.
Yeah, I think, what is he known for? So I used to run into him a lot because he recruited Texas for many years. As you said, Arizona State. He was at Clemson, at Alabama. He recruited Texas for a long time. Really good dude. I think he's a great relationships guy that carries from recruiting to his players is probably maybe even his strength. It's just, tough job, man. Look, Florida's a great job in my opinion because the in-state talent and you can recruit nationally and you have the Southeast region. They fell way behind in facilities, kind of like Texas did at one point. And, then when you come in there, imagine getting the Florida job when Nick Saban's the goats at Alabama and Kirby Smart's getting it going at Georgia. I mean, that's
Florida State's won a national championship.
And Dabo is still powerful at Clemson. I mean, that's what you're literally recruiting against there. It's the next, if it's Lane Kiffin, if you're making me take a pick for who the next coach will be at Florida, I think it'll be Lane Kiffin. It's going to be a Sexton guy. Napier's a Sexton guy. He'll replace him with another Sexton guy. And I would think it would be Lane Kiffin. That'd be my bet right now. Lane Kiffin will have a really good offense if he takes that job or if that job opens up. But it's still it's a tougher recruiting job than you think it is right now. Now with FSU just going on the ultimate roller coaster ride of all time, that helps. And with Nick Saban retiring, that helps. But when Napier got to Florida, it's amazing how so much is this timing. Like, remember Urban Meyer, who was a great recruiter, obviously. When he got to Florida, Miami was a mess and Bowden was, on the decline, right? That was perfect timing to come in and totally dominate that state in recruiting. Billy Napier got there, it's a little tougher. But he also didn't help himself on the field.
It's very interesting. I was around when Spurrier was he never dominated in-state recruiting, actually. Florida State kept dominating it. And just kept losing. Now they also, Florida, for all of the players at Florida, their two best pro quarterbacks, Jerry, were Jesse Palmer and Rex Grossman. Think about that. With all those quarterbacks he had.
Yeah.
But
he had his own Josh Heupel and Danny Warfel.
Oh yeah. Oh, even better than Josh Heupel.
Yeah. But I mean, just the not the pro, not the strong arm. He just ran his system to 100% maximization.
Oh, unbelievable. I saw Werfel lead a comeback over Florida State in the Swamp in person, and he was masterful in that. Ryan Nelson asked another Florida question here, and that's this is a value, a good thought process here. Did the Jaden Rashada quarterback, that drama doomed Billy from the start? If you're unfamiliar with this, Jaden Rashada was a top-ranked quarterback out of the West Coast, and he actually initially was going to sign with Florida and then did sign with Florida, but believed that Florida reneged on its NIL deal with him, then transferred to Arizona State, made it very public that Napier and his underling did not deliver. Yet somehow, I will say this, Ryan, I think all of that is forgiven for Napier because, look, Lagway looks like the dude, right? I mean, Jerry, you would agree with that. Like, he looks like the kind of guy that can help you resurrect a program, in my opinion. That's what they're leaning on right now. I think he's trying to get the team ready to be more than that when Lagway comes of age. But I think the Rashada stuff, it looked like it was dooming, and then they saw Lagway this year and said, well, maybe we got something anyways at quarterback. You agree with that, Jerry?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And you know, the funny thing about Rashad, and maybe he goes on to be a great player at Georgia. Arizona State's better without him and all the drama.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, you know, they got Levitt from Michigan State. They're a better football team because they don't have the drama. And so of that whole deal. But yeah, I agree. I think getting DJ Lagway was huge for Billy Napier. And, you know, you kind of this is the first time I felt bad for Napier a little bit. And we're talking about this because it's Florida Texas week. Because he actually, with Lagway, he was showing enough signs maybe he could creep to 7-5 and save his job. Now he's sitting there with Aiden Warner, and even if Lagway just misses 2 games or something, I mean, he's sitting there with Aiden Warner versus Texas and LSU. No chance.
Yeah, he's gonna have a hard time there. Rapid calm, Jerry Bobby. From what I saw in the South Carolina A&M game, South Carolina was having a great deal of success with perimeter run game. Shirley Sark was taking notes there. Thoughts? A&M defense is good but slow. I don't think they're slow.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Torian York is a interesting player for them. He clearly is a team leader at middle linebacker, Jerry. He clearly doesn't have the ideal length to play middle linebacker in the SEC.
Aaron Harris?
I think he's even shorter arm than Aaron Harris.
Yeah.
And so that proves you don't have to have that position to win a national championship to be that way. But I think that he is, you know exactly what I'm saying. He's a leader for the team, culture guy.
Yeah, my whole thing.
I think they're linebackers right now, not their front.
Right.
Because they were blitzing the heck out of their safeties on Saturday in the run support.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the perimeter run game. Some of that was the quarterback, but some of it was short side of the field too.
Yeah.
And the linebacker not getting there in time, which is what I'm talking.
What we've talked about with the A&M South Carolina games, whatever South Carolina did offensively against A&M, throw it out the window. It doesn't matter against Texas. It's just the two offenses couldn't be further apart than what South Carolina's doing with their offense and what Sark does with his offense. So, like, you just have to throw it out. What A&M offensively, they have the same issues they've had all year. It's just who does it creep up against? It's wide receiver wise. Noah Thomas is a solid player, may play in the NFL on some level. They don't have the guys on the outside to really maximize the running backs, maximize the offensive line, maximize the quarterback position. They lack the threats. So that was a big thing to me. And Marcel Reed's a young quarterback. I mean, he's tremendous when a play breaks down, but in the pocket, he's got to make the play happen before it can break down. So he's just a young quarterback. And, you know, South Carolina's physical now. Their 2 edge guys are NFL guys. One may be a first rounder. That safety, the kid with that name I'll never pronounce correctly, he's a first, second. That guy's a stud safety. They have some really big physical kids on that team. But Texas can't replicate anything South Carolina did offensively. That's just not going to happen. Texas will have to work A&M's front 4 the way Sarkisian does. There's just I just don't see any similarity there.
I wanted to say this real quick. I'm looking at some news and notes here. Ryan Nelson, coming off a bye in Florida with the 3rd string QB, no excuse for us not to dominate this game. Here's what I want to say to y'all. And this is who's dominating who. Georgia didn't dominate Florida with a 3rd string quarterback. And the only team that I saw that dominated anybody in the SEC last week was Arkansas getting dominated by Ole Miss. Every other game was highly competitive. Kentucky is being given last rights right now as a football program, and Tennessee was down at half to Kentucky. Okay, Auburn, I believe, is winless in the SEC, and it was 10-7 in the 4th quarter against Vanderbilt. I'm only saying this is be careful saying that you're going to dominate somebody in this league right now. That's what maybe South Carolina dominated A&M. and A&M was a top 10 team. So be careful with expectations. Go beat and play a full game against Florida. I think Texas is going to win. I think that the idea of dominating needs to be understood, that it's got to be relatively speaking these days in the SEC.
Yeah, I think what'll be interesting for me is I want to see what Florida does defensively against Texas, because they play a lot of too high corner off. That ain't going to work against Texas. Vanderbilt tried that, and I don't care if Florida has better athletes than Vanderbilt. I'm not sure. I don't think they're better at linebacker, by the way. I think they have some good players, but that's not going to work against this Texas offense. Not unless you can really get pressure with your front four.
So do you think Texas is going to dominate them? I mean, that's the question.
So,
I mean, the dominate part is the part where I'm kind of like,
if Quinn and Texas will get out of that, here's the ball on our side of the field to start every game, then maybe. But I mean, that's like been a theme the last 3 games. Like, how about one game you don't throw an interception on your side of the field to start a game or early in a game?
Yeah.
After that, once Sarks saw what Vanderbilt was doing, it was like boom, boom, down the field, 14 points. If Texas just won't turn the freaking ball over to start a game, they may have 14, 17 points in a quarter against Florida if they're going to play 2 high corners off. I just don't think that's going to work against Texas. And I think Bond will be ready to roll. And I think Texas will be like, oh, we saw that 2 weeks ago. Oh, yeah, we like this.
So you're saying if Florida plays off, then domination could happen. If they choose to play a little bit of a mix of what Georgia and Florida did, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
Is that a good way to put it? Okay.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I get it. Manuel Soto, are there any Texas recruits that we should be worried about, i.e. not solid to Texas or on flip watch to other schools? Jerry, you know of anybody that you're concerned with right now for the Longhorns? I know Nick Brooks took a visit to Auburn over the weekend, but that was with some of his Grayson teammates.
Yeah, I mean, he went down. He told the Texas staff he was going to Auburn for that game with 4 or 5 teammates. I'm not worried about that. If he shows up again for the A&M game, if he goes twice and this time it's just him and moms or family, that might be a different story. Look, Zealous Hicks I think he was at Tennessee this weekend. He's going to Florida for the LSU game. I think he's going to Georgia Tech for the Miami game. Now that I think the colleges know that, oh, shoot, this guy he's better than 50-50 shot. He's going to graduate high school and at the end of May and be out and be in the 25 class. I think the colleges are trying to really ramp it up and get him back on campus one more time, because anybody that was thinking, oh, he'll probably end up staying in 2026. Now they're like, whoa, it's at least 50-50. He's not. So they got to make big pushes there. But, worried right now, I wouldn't say I'm worried. Could something happen? Always. It's recruiting, but I wouldn't say there's anything alarming at this point. Now, again, if Nick Brooks shows up for the Auburn A&M game by himself and family, then that's a different story. If you come back twice, if you just go with your buds and you don't show up again,
good stuff,
I don't blame kids for wanting to go to games, by the way. If I'm Zealous Hicks, I would go and 100% make sure I'm locked in with my decision, especially if I'm moving up my high school timeline and I'm done with this process in May.
Yep. This one from Jason Ari. Over under 3 sacks for the Longhorns. I might take the over. Would you? But here's my question. I thought that on the surface of this question, I was like, maybe. But then I know Georgia didn't have any sacks against Florida last week, Jerry.
Right.
And Georgia, you can say what you want, but they look like they have a better pass rush than Texas.
Yeah. I think
over. Is that because Warner will be the full-time starter?
I guess the flip side to that is they got to get the ball out of his hands quick. They can't have him sitting in the pocket.
Yeah, and they didn't play from behind much.
Right. Maybe it's harder there than a quarterback like Lagway's a freshman who will hang in the pocket, maybe escape when he shouldn't escape, and he gets tripped up for a 2-yard sack, right? I mean, maybe those plays aren't there. Here's the key to that, though. If Texas stops the run, then, yeah, they'll get sacks against Florida.
All right, I need to say thank you to our sponsor. We got a few more minutes of a couple more questions we're going to get to. Thank you to our sponsor, John Donovan, President, Longhorn Wealth Management Group. As a proud UT alum, John served 15 years as a Dallas, Texas X board member and is now helping lead the build-out of the Collin County, Texas X's chapter. John wants to remind everyone that November is Alzheimer's Awareness Month, so he encourages everyone to take the time to understand the options available to address the financial stress that accompanies caring for a loved one stricken with Alzheimer's. John is offering all OTF fans a free 90-minute private consultation to help you determine if your own health and wealth protections are appropriately and adequately in place. Call John and the Longhorn Wealth team at 972-707-4900 or go online, www.longhornwealth.net, to schedule your free private consultation today. John says, hook them to everybody out there. Hey, Jerry, Juan Garza says, I see Curt Cignetti to Florida instead of Lane Kiffin. What do you think about the Indiana coach? This is just 1 year in now, but he's doing a pretty amazing job with the Hoosiers.
Yeah, you got find out who his agent is. I mean, that's the best thing. Look, Sark, Sexton, Saban, Sexton, Kirby, Sexton, Napier, Sexton, Heupel, Sexton. I mean, Kiffin, Sexton. The guy runs the SEC. So his guy's going to get first right of refusal for the Florida job. If Lane Kiffin says, nah, I'm good, I think I'll stay at Ole Miss, then maybe. If you told me Cignetti has Sexton as his agent, I might change my tune.
I got to say this.
I learned my lesson with the Sexton thing, picking other guys, and I was wrong.
13th year, I believe he's going into right now, or 12th year, 13th, as a head coach. He's been the coach of the year in his conference 4 of the previous 12 years. I would highly suggest he's likely to be the head coach of the year in the Big Ten this year.
Oh, yeah.
That's a pretty strong resume. I will say he did most of his winning at lower level schools. James Madison, that program, by the way, is like being born on third base in its league from a talent perspective. And what he did in the transfer portal, getting the quarterback that he got, love it there. All right, a couple more questions we got from folks before we get finished with this. Let's see this. Kenneth Cassidy here. I'm not sure why that pulled up the wrong one. Kenneth Cassidy, Bobby, would it behoove Quinn to pull the ball and run a few times a game to keep the defensive ends honest? I don't even know if it's a few times a game as much as it is once every 2 games, Jerry, particularly in the red zone. Keep that defensive end from crashing down. What do you think about that? I mean, he's not the guy that you want to run multiple times a game, in my opinion. But I could see it once every 2 or 3 games just to keep defensive ends honest enough. How do you say that?
I can see the point. Guy's been hurt 3 years in a row. It's tough for me on that one.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know how to answer that because I fear the one time he does it, I don't know.
This was a really good one, and probably wouldn't be asking this question a week or 2 weeks ago until we saw what Jelani McDonald could put on the field. With run support being a premium against Florida, will Jelani McDonald start or play significant snaps? I think he's going to play significant snaps because you got to remember Andrew Makuba just coming back from injury a little bit. But he's probably better in run support than Makuba, right, Jerry?
He's more physical. I'm not sure if he started 5 games in a row, he'd be as sound. He hadn't played as much football as Makuba, but I think he's more physical on contact. He's a bigger guy. And I think he has a little bit more closing burst to the ball in a run support versus Makuba. But I'm not sure assignment-wise if he would grade out as high as Makuba would over like a 4 or 5 game period.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for tonight's Talk of Ball. Thanks again to Longhorn Wealth Management Group, John Donovan. Thanks to our producer, Matt Hutchison. And thanks to all of you guys for joining us. We will answer your questions again tomorrow. Come and join us for Coffee and Football. We also have a live stream tomorrow night. So for Jerry Hamilton and myself, Bobby Burton, thank y'all for watching tonight's episode of On Texas Football, Talking Ball. Hook 'em.